I'm going to move on now to another
Why would you want to do that?
non-controversial.
This is so fun.
This is fun.
This is a real debate.
This is
what the debate's
this
all
is
about.
what debate
This is
should
what they
be.
came here for, right?
But this is another non-controversial subject. It has to do with Social Security. And,
Oh, good.
We're going to do Kevin Kramer first.
Sure.
You know, Americans work very hard and pay into Social Security with each paycheck.
Sure.
What is your position on strengthening Social Security for current and future generations?
Sure. Great question, because there's a big difference between current and future. For current recipients, nothing. Keep it as it is. Make sure, I would say, make sure that anybody's currently getting Social Security benefits, and anybody that's, say, 55 and older, so that we aren't pulling the rug out from under them, changing the rules in the middle of the game. However, it's very important to understand that doing nothing means that in 2034, when it goes insolvent, there'll only be 75% of the money coming in that will be going out. That means an automatic 25% cut. I think we should put everything on the table, Dave, everything, including particularly including raising the cap on the income that is taxed for Social Security. I don't think we have to do it a lot, but if we do it a little now, the out years will create a lot more revenue, and we'll be able to keep it alive longer for future generations.
Senator Heitkamp?
I think there is such a clear difference on Social Security and Medicare. Congressman Kramer has a long history of trying to privatize Social Security. He has a long history of voting for bills that would limit our ability to continue this system into the future. The single biggest discussion today is because of the deficit driven up by a tax bill, $1.9 trillion worth of debt. We were promised that tax bill would pay for itself. No one, not one economist, except for an economist sitting in the White House, believes that. And now we have an over $770 billion deficit this year, and it's going to be $1 trillion next year. And so we're digging a hole. My folks taught me, when you're in a hole and want to get out, don't keep digging. So we're digging that deficit hole deeper, only to have the bait and switch of now we need to fix Social Security and Medicare. Guess what? We don't need to cut those programs. We don't need to take the money away from our seniors because we gave it to the wealthiest people in this country and the wealthiest corporations.
Representative Kramer?
Well, I hope we get to talk about the tax cuts bill later, but first of all, her math is a little bit off. She's complicating things by including the discretionary side of the budget with the mandatory side of the budget. As we speak, 29% of the budget is discretionary, and half of that is national defense, which should not be discretionary, by the way. On the mandatory side are the big drivers. We can't just pretend that everything's okay and not preserve them. I've never talked about privatizing Social Security, nor do I support cutting Social Security benefits. I'm talking about the revenue side. Usually Democrats love raising taxes on rich people. I'm talking about raising the cap from $130,000, which is roughly what it is today, to a higher number, and then indexing that cap so it's going up over the years to reflect the natural inflation, so that we can create a lot of money in the long term with small changes today. But if we wait till 2034, it's an automatic cut. So sticking your head in the sand and pretending it's not an issue is going to result in automatic cuts.
Congressman Kramer, you didn't introduce one bill to eliminate or raise the cap. Not one bill. You've been there a long time. I wouldn't just raise it incrementally. I'd eliminate the cap. It's time that people, the wealthiest of the people in this country, it's time that the wealthiest people in this country pay the same percentage as the poorest people in this country. LeBron James actually meets his cap by the third minute in the first basketball game he plays. Wrong on so many levels. And we have got to get things right in this country, and we've got to quit penalizing our middle-income people to the benefit of rich people, which is exactly what that cap does. But you have not introduced a bill that would have eliminated the cap, and I tried to get Mulvaney during our debate on his confirmation to admit that we need to raise the cap. He's the head of OMB. He took a pass on it. So don't assume that this administration anytime soon is going to agree to eliminate or raise the cap on Social Security. It won't happen. It'll only happen if good people in a bipartisan way come together to solve the problems of Social Security and Medicare.
Congressman, I'll give you another bite at the apple.
Well, my first question is, what's your bill number on doing that? So I know.
I didn't say that. I wasn't the one saying that we hadn't done it.
So anyway,
I asked the administration to do it. I asked Mulvaney to do it. Well,
okay.
why
First,
not?
listen.
He's the head of OMB.
Well,
There should be no leadership from the White House, y'all, on fixing this. He walked away from it. What he wanted to do, what the president's head of OMB wanted to do, was raise the age to 70. I said, good luck to the oil field worker who's been working his whole life now knowing that he has to work to 70 to actually get his Social Security. That was his plan.
First of all, this is the first time you've brought up a possible solution, because I've been raising this solution and have been recognized for it nationally because I am a Republican who's raising it. In fact, this is one of those issues where the president and I have quite publicly disagreed. I think we have to deal with it. The sooner we deal with it, the smaller the fix will have to be. If we wait till it's automatic, it's 25% cut. I don't want to see that happen. I'm more than happy to work across the aisle and across the Capitol to start work. But I think we have to put everything on the table, you guys. If you say this is a non-starter, then guess what you do? You never start.
Well,
we have to deal with this. The sooner the better.
I will not put everything on the table. I will not put on the table cuts to our senior citizens who worked hard and earned this benefit. When you call them entitlements, and when the words he used was mandatory, what he really means is entitlements. And I will not put any cut for our senior citizens on the table.
Okay, so mandatory is not an entitlement, okay? There's lots of mandatory spending that are not, quote, entitlements.
Be careful,
so she likes to use these words. She likes to keep digging. I understand that. She's in Hail Mary mode right now. I get it. But let's
Please.
all right, they can use up my time. That's okay.
No.
Yeah. I mean,
just very quickly, yes.
Are you saying you've never used the word entitlement, Kevin?
I don't know that I've never used the word entitlement. I've worked very hard not to refer to them as entitlements, and I can't think of one time during this campaign that I've used the word entitlement. But it doesn't matter what you... The point of the matter is it's mandatory spending, and we have to deal with it. If we don't deal with the income stream, we're going to have 25% cuts. And telling people that you're not going to touch Social Security is not a solution. But at least you've offered one tonight, just without a bill number.
Telling people that you're going to give them a $1.9 trillion tax cut and then laying Social Security and Medicare on the table for cuts, that is not a program that's going to work for our seniors. It's not a program that's going to work for our working men and women in this country and in this state. And we need to stand with the middle class, not the richest. And we need to solve this problem, yes, but we need to solve it in a way that does not hurt our seniors.
So speaking of the tax cuts, did anybody notice that we now had a 12-month GDP growth over 3%, something Barack Obama could never have accomplished? Do you notice that because of the tax cuts, because of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the #1 cure to all of this is more people working? We have more people working at higher wages than any time in American history. Does anybody notice that we have the lowest unemployment rate we've had since in the last 49 years? That's all part of the formula. And the result of it has been that we've had the largest revenue income in the history of the country. That's how you solve a lot of these problems. But we also need to deal specifically with Social Security. So it's there for my mother and for Chris and me, for our children and our grandchildren. It's not a one-election soundbite.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, what was the business investment growth third quarter this year?
3.5, or the business investment growth? I don't know, but the number one measure is GDP. That's a pretty important number,
because that's the leading indicator of the economy.
It's actually not.
What was the business?
It's actually not.
Well, yeah, it is.
Okay.
Business investment growth. I mean, what people are willing to put back into their business. What was the growth in third quarter? The report came out today. It was less than 1%. And so what we're seeing now is we're seeing a growth in the economy that is fueled by consumer spending, but not by underlying economics. And I'll tell you this, we're going to get to another issue. You know what, one of the primary reasons is the tariffs and trade policy of this administration.
So we've had 12 months of over 3% gross domestic product growth. That is the #1 economic indicator. And by the way, consumer spending is driving it. And guess what drives consumer spending? Consumers having more money. Guess how consumers have more money? The government takes less. Oh, and by the way, it creates more jobs. That's why we have both rocket ship economy and growing income for the government to spend on our priorities.
Consumer spending and government spending are driven right now by debt. We're a country that's being driven by debt, and that problem needs to get solved. And I'll let Dave ask a question because we've pretty much taken you out of the mix here, Dave. And we like you, so we want you back in.
He's loosening his tie.
Funny, it was ironic. That was my next question.
It was about
the tax cuts.
Sure.
But